And my parents were the local porn stars. My mum was in porn, my dad was in porn, and we owned a pawn shop.
Come on. I
And
love it.
we thought the yellow pages and advertising was going to solve our problem, but today we've got different problems. And I personally believe a lot of people think that paid ads are going to solve their sales problems. What's your thinking around that, Randy?
You know what? As much as things have changed, Daniel, a lot of things still remain the same. You know, I talk to a lot of people about advertising, and understand something. I came up in the '80s in the marketing world, and in that I ran ads on TV and video, and we were doing radio, newspaper, magazines. I mean, it was all part of that whole um, big ad agency um, blow up in the '80s. Okay, so I understand that, and you see, the problem with advertising. It's not that there's a problem with advertising. What the problem is the people who do the advertising. You see, I have a client. He turns around and says, "Well, you know what? I don't want to hire salespeople anymore because salespeople are lazy. What I do want to do is do advertising on Facebook because that's going to solve my problem." The work is the same no matter what you do. If I'm hiring salespeople, I got to train them, and I got to watch what they're doing, and I have to maintain them and manage them. If I'm running advertising, I've got to be doing content creation. I've got to do support creations. I've got to do A/B testing. I've got to do analytics and data management. It's just the same thing. It's just different.
We say in Australia, same shit, different smell.
Well, it's the same. Absolutely, same shit, different smell. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If people are looking for advertising to solve their sales problem, you know, um, it doesn't take away your sales problem. This, and this is something that I see a lot of. People think, well, business is business, and business is different than personal, and it's to be honest with you, it's not that at all. People buy when they're emotionally connected to what they're buying. People buy when
In
they're
the nineties,
emotionally. I'm
in the
sorry.
nineties, in the nineties, we had an ad agency come into our business, and they tried to create that emotional connection. And they said, "Well, you're money lenders, and you're just like the game Monopoly. So
Yeah,
why don't we create a figurine?" And so it was kind of this mashup between the Monopoly man and Ronald McDonald. And it
yeah,
was this 6 foot guy that looked like a dollar sign. And he
yep,
had a monocle, he had a cane, and he had a top hat. And that was going to solve our advertising and our marketing problems. And that was going to drive sales into the business because people were going to see this dollar man and they were going to figure out exactly what we did. So we had this 6 foot freak on the roof, the 6 foot dollar man, that most people didn't even understand what it was
right,
or even connect with.
right.
And it
You
didn't
know,
improve the
the
sales at all.
well, of course not, because you see, we're talking the difference between advertising and branding.
Mm.
Okay, branding is when it's not what you say it is; it's what they say it is. They being your audience. So you put a 6 foot dollar man on your roof, and people go, "What the hell is a 8 foot or 6 foot dollar man doing there? It makes no sense to me." But 30 years ago, when Nike came out with the swish, the check mark, did anybody know what that was? No. But what they did was they kept showing it and 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 kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And eventually, Daniel turned around one day and said, "Oh my God, that swish means Nike. I know them. They're Michael Jordan. They're this tennis player. They're this basketball player. They're this They're this, they're this, they're this. And over time, branding is what takes place. Advertising is a different modal, because what ends up happening is you have a product and you want to sell that product. This has nothing to do with your logo. This has nothing to do with your company. It has nothing to do at this stage. It will have further down the line. If people are engaged with you, and it's easier to look at this from a position of a salesperson customer point of view. When I go out to see a customer, I want to find out a couple of things. I want to find out why I'm there. I want to find out what your problem is. I want to find out whether I can solve your problem. And I want to find out how that makes you feel. I want to know. And believe me, I get a lot of weird looks when I do this. I say, well, listen, Daniel, I'm here. You want to be here because you need X. Okay. So tell me about your company. What is it about your company that makes you think you need this product or this service or whatever they're thinking? Well, my boss said that I need to get quotes on this. Okay. All right. So your boss asked you to do that. How did that make you feel? Well, what do you mean, how does it make me feel? Well, how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel, are you excited to do it? Are you happy to do it? Are you sad to do it? Like, how does it make you feel? Well, it doesn't make me feel anything. And I get that a lot. And I said, no. No, it makes you feel something. If you want me to help you, you want me to be honest with you, right? So you got to be honest with me. You see, people buy when they're emotionally engaged with who and what they're buying. Human beings don't make logical decisions. They make emotional decisions. And then they support it after with reason and rationality. Okay? Humans make emotional decisions. Therefore, if I can't help you if I don't know how you feel, because I want to know how you feel before before I make the sale, and I want to know how you're going to feel after I make the sale. So after you bought the product, how is that going to make you feel? So because when it comes time for me to close the sale, I'm going to be able to say to you, Daniel, you're going to say, well, you know what, Randy, I need to think about it. Okay, great. I understand that. But let me ask you a question, Daniel. Didn't you say this? And didn't you tell me that that's how it made you feel? Didn't that tell you it made you feel awkward? Yeah, it made me feel awkward. And didn't you tell me that when I asked you about this, you told me that made you feel sad, right? Yeah, I told you it made me feel sad. Well, if you're feeling awkward and you're feeling sad, wouldn't you like to be happy? I need to move you across that bridge to the other side. And over on the other side, this is where happiness is. Nobody wants to stay in sadness. Everybody wants to be happy. So let me make you happy and let's close the sale. Now, that is kind of sped through the whole thing. There's obviously more to it. But the point is that that's the idea. And even when you're doing advertising, the same principles apply. You have to engage that customer or that audience on an emotional level. You need to know what those emotions are.
A lot of people express their emotions on social media, both the positive emotions, the negative emotions, and they share their thoughts publicly. And one of the things that I'm seeing these days is that an emotional outlet tends to be social media. And I think a lot of business people and professionals don't realize how their online behaviors can actually impact their brand.
Oh.
So what are you seeing in the market today where social media is negatively impacting people's personal brands?
Well, it's funny. A very dear friend of mine was a fellow by the name of Bob Proctor. Known Bob for about 40 years. He was a public speaker and passed away last year. And he used to tell me when I was a young boy, he'd say to me, he'd say, the 5 people you talk to the most, the ones that are toxic, you need to get rid of those. And I'm coming up to the part about social media because after, this is years later, he came across him and he said to me, he says, Randy, did you ever get rid of those 5 people? And I said, I did. I got rid of 4 and kept 1. And he said, who was the one? Your mother? I said, no, I got rid of her. Was it your brother? I said, no, I got rid of him too. I said, it was just an old friend of mine. But you know what? Anything I ever did, he would always have my back. When I put an ad out on the National Enquirer or the Globe, he was always the first one to buy it. Okay, so he was always the biggest supporter of me, and I can't say that he and I were really close friends growing up, but we became close over the years. Further down the line, it comes down to social media. And I remember thinking one day, I have all these people on social media that follow me, and none of them follow me on my personal page, because that feed, when I start seeing feeds that are one person yelling at another person, or people disrespecting, or people that are rude or nasty, or being mean, or just being condescending, I remove them. I remove them because I don't want that in my brain. You know what? I sit there and I read that stuff, and to me it's like reading the newspaper. Okay, plane crashes, drought, vaccinations, all this sort of thing. I don't need it in my life. That goes on out there. That belongs to other people. It doesn't belong to me. So I try to keep this as ironed out as I possibly can. And by following social media and following people that are toxic, poisonous, it does nothing but just poison your mind. And it's
people
funny
that I was respecting on social media, and as I watched them, I followed their journey, and I really liked what they were doing. Recently, they've changed their approach, and since COVID and the world can start to move around, they're going to all of these paid events where you pay to get acknowledged. And every single day, there's one person on social media, I've been featured on this page, I've been featured on that page, I've been featured in this article, I've been featured online over here. And day after day after day, there's this media and press release. And I'm thinking to myself, I smell a little bit of bullshit here. So from having credibility to flooding it with all of these fake awards, I'd totally lost respect for one person. And then the other person started to do it as well, day after day, award after award. And I'm thinking to myself as a business person, what is this person doing? It is impossible that they could have all of these awards if they're actually doing business, because they just go from event to event and they get paid for this recognition. And so their credibility, in my mind, went down to the stage where I stopped following both of them, because I feel like I'm scammed from
Of
the...
course you do. And you see, and this is what I was saying earlier, is that it's this toxic stuff, whether it's personal or whether it's business. Look, I've been doing marketing for 43 years. I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I've got 2 awards to my credit after 43 years. I'm okay with that. I'm not an award chaser anyway.
Do you need one every day? Do you need an award every day, every week?
You know what? I get rewards every day. Look, I'm here with you tonight. That's reward. Okay? Look, it really depends on how you frame your world. I don't need flashy awards to hang on my wall. I don't need them. They're nice, I guess, but I don't need them. And I don't need that recognition constantly where other people have to endorse who I am. I know who I am. And this comes down to confidence. And confidence can't live in uh, an unknowledgeable body. You Knowledge drives confidence. When you have knowledge, you get confidence. Okay? And fear can't live in a confident environment. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. But yeah,
Both of them I like.
and you see, and this is the thing is too, is that when people say, oh well, Randy, can you give me your opinion of this? I don't ask people for my opinion anymore. Why? Because I know what I'm doing. Okay, and look, I mean, as much as I like you, Daniel, I probably would never say to you, listen, give me your opinion about this marketing program and tell me whether you think it'll work. Okay, because you have no idea about me, you have no idea about my business. Okay. On the other hand, if I'm a confident individual, I don't need to be concerned about your opinion or anybody's opinion. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it's going to land on my lap anyway. So if I turn around and I say, okay, you know what? I've written 2 ads. I like them both. I want to test them both and see what works. If none of them work, I go back to the drawing board and do it again. If one of them gets a little bit of headway, I may stick with that and do something else on the other one and keep doing it until I get it right. But I think there's a lot of misconception on the internet, and maybe we should clear that up right now. We all seen those ads. Oh my God, I just it's 8 o'clock in the morning and I just bought ClickFunnels, and oh my God, it's 12 noon and I just made my first ClickFunnels and I just launched it.
And you don't need
And, oh my
$9
God,
million to invest in your business.
and oh my God, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I just made $1.4 million. Like I said, I've been in marketing 43 years. I've never had a windfall like that in my life. Okay. I dare to say you probably haven't either. Because it's not real. And there's so many things. This is where irresponsible marketing comes into play. And we see this all the time. The government, I think, is probably one of the worst, okay, for irresponsible marketing. The food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, all these are very irresponsible. I think people have to take responsibility for what they do, what they say, and how they say it. You see, if you create a simple, emotionally connecting ad, people will respond to it. If you create an emotionally engaging post on social media, people will engage with it. But if you lie, or you cheat, or you try to create something that isn't you, I'm going to know it, and so are you. Because the one thing that human beings do better than anything else is they can sniff out unauthenticity. They can anytime.
I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and it was called Win Sales Now. And one of the chapters in there was dedicated to what's called marriage material.
Yep.
And marriage material was talking about that authenticity. If you're going to have a buyer-seller relationship, and this person's going to be with you for a week, for a month, for a year, for a lifetime, you want to make sure that when that client wakes up in the morning and they look at you as their provider, they like what they see. They like what they hear. They like what they feel. And it's that relationship, and it's ongoing. But unfortunately, in the world of sales, a lot of people think the sale is made and the money's exchanged and it's all over. That's just the beginning. Like when I proposed to my wife, will you marry me? Now I've got to prove it for the rest of my life. It's not just one, always be closing, not the ABC.
Isn't it that way with everything, Daniel?
It should be.
And it should be. And I've got clients that have been with me since I got one client that's been with me since 1992. Okay, and he's still with me today. Actually, it's his son that runs the company now. But my clients stick around. One client's been with me for 8 years, another one's been with me for 5, another one's been with me for 9. Why? Because I treat people fair and I treat people honest. And if you've got a stupid idea, I'm going to say, listen, man, this isn't a good idea. This is a bad one. Okay? Actually, I got a funny story. Can I tell a funny story?
I'd love to hear it.
Okay. So it's 1992. And Daniel, I'm broke. I mean broke. Okay? And I had enough money just to set up my home office, order a phone line. And back in the 90s, ordering a phone line was a big deal. You know what I mean? Ordered a few business cards, and I had a little computer, and everything was used. I couldn't afford new, so it took me about 3 weeks, and I followed up on this ad I saw in the paper. The guy was looking for a marketing assistant, so I responded to the ad, and it was this guy by the name of Weiss. And he was a German fella. Not that that means anything, but I could hardly understand the guy because his English was so bad. So anyways, he would sit down with me. He said to me, he says, you're nothing but a stupid kid. Like, you're stupid. You don't know anything. And I was sitting there, well, and of course I'm broke. I need this job. So I'm kind of going along with it. And he says to me, okay, I'm going to try you out. But you got to do exactly as I say. Okay, I said, all right. So he does these crazy marketing campaigns in the newspaper, on the radio, and in magazines. And he does a lot of guerrilla marketing. Flyers and guy walking down the street with sandwich boards. Just crazy stuff. So this goes on. This guy would turn around and send ad copy into the newspaper, and the newspaper editor desk would send it back saying, we can't use that kind of language. Okay, this guy was just... Anyway, so this goes on for 3 years, and I'm still working with the guy. But now I've got a few other clients, so now things are kind of eased up a bit. So I go to him and I said, listen, Weiss, I said, I just can't do this anymore. This is so painful for me. He said, what do you mean? Now, Weiss had tons of money, so he didn't care. He said, well, one of these days it'll just connect. People will get it. And I said, no, I don't think so, man. I said, look, why don't you let me handle your marketing? And, oh, yeah, but you don't know anything. You're just stupid. You're a kid. I'd say, well, I may be stupid and I may be a kid, but I can't do any worse than you are. So his wife turned around and convinced him to give me a try. So he says, look, I'm willing to give you a try, but if it fails, you pay. I said, okay. If it fails, I will pay. Now, it couldn't fail any worse than his, because his was exactly 0. Okay, so it had to be better than that. So we ran the campaign. And the first out of the gate, I was doing a lot of A/B testing on it because I couldn't seem to get the right content together for it. And then all of a sudden, one ad just connected, and we generated a huge amount of money in about 90 days. Okay. Well, he comes back to me and he says, I didn't think it would work. And I said, why did you not think it would work? He said, you've got to be the most fearless guy I've ever met, considering you could have ended up having to pay for the whole campaign. I said, well, but again, you know what? I knew that one sale would have been better than 0. So, and that's how Fearless Marketer came about. But the point that I'm making to this is that everything requires a level of effort that you have to put into everything you do. There's no quick fixes out there. And if for people to think that, oh well, I'm just going to place an ad and people are going to flock to my brand, that it just isn't so.